You know, when we think of Iran, or Persia as it was known for centuries, we're talking about one of history's most fascinating and, frankly, most misunderstood countries. It's a land that has gone through some absolutely incredible transformations, and we're about to explore just how deep those changes run.
And right off the bat, you're faced with this huge contradiction. On one hand, you have the legacy of Cyrus the Great, who literally wrote the world's first charter of human rights. And on the other, you have the modern Islamic Republic, where religious law dictates every part of daily life.
So, how in the world did that happen? Answering that question is a real journey. It takes us through ancient empires, religious upheaval, foreign meddling, and of course, a massive revolution. So, let's get into it. Our story spans a massive 2,500 years. So, think of this as our roadmap. We're going to start way back with the ancient Persian Empire and hit all the key turning points that ultimately shaped the Iran we see today.
All right, first things first. To really get a handle on this story, we have to go back to the very beginning, to understand the foundational ideas that defined Persia's identity for thousands of years.
What really set the first Persian Empire apart was its totally revolutionary approach to running things. I mean, at a time when most conquerors would just crush local cultures, Cyrus the Great did the complete opposite. He had this policy of tolerance that was just unheard of for the time, and their state religion was every bit as unique.
That religion was Zoroastrianism, and it is almost impossible to overstate its influence. Think about it. Basic concepts like a single god, this big cosmic battle between good and evil, divine judgment, heaven, hell, all of these ideas would become absolutely central to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It's truly one of history's most consequential faiths.
Okay, now let's jump forward to the first major turning point. In the 7th century, a brand new faith arrives on the scene, and it's going to completely reshape Iranian society from the ground up.
The Arab conquest brought Islam, and along with it, Sharia law. Now, it's really important to understand this wasn't just a new set of beliefs, it was a total legal and social system. It governed everything, from how you bank to who you marry. And it introduced this idea of commanding right and forbidding wrong as a duty for everyone, a principle that, believe me, will have huge consequences centuries down the road.
Then comes another game-changing moment. For centuries, most of the Islamic world was Sunni. But in Persia, the Safavid Dynasty makes a huge pivot. They declare Shia Islam the state religion, and they impose it with absolutely brutal force. This is what gives Iran its unique Shia identity, and it creates a super powerful class of religious scholars, the ulama, who become woven into the very fabric of the state.
Okay, let's fast forward again, this time to the 18th and 19th centuries. This is when a technologically superior Europe starts throwing its weight around, and it leads to a period of deep national humiliation for Iran.
During this time, Iran was basically carved up by Britain and Russia. They treated it like their personal playground. They controlled its politics, and most importantly, they controlled its resources. The British, for instance, took the lion's share of profits from Iran's enormous oil reserves. As you can imagine, this whole experience created a deep-seated resentment and a powerful sense of nationalism that is still very much alive today.
In response to all this, Iranians tried to take back control. They launched the Constitutional Revolution of 1906, which actually established a parliament and a constitution. For a moment, there was this glimmer of hope. But that moment was crushed when Britain and Russia stepped in, terrified they were about to lose their grip on Iran's oil.
So, when that democratic dream died, it paved the way for a totally different kind of modernization, one that was forced on the country from the top down by a new royal family, the Pahlavis. The Shahs launched this massive, secular, Western-style reform program. On one hand, they banned the hijab and gave women the right to vote. But all of this came at a staggering cost. They ruled as absolute dictators, using a feared secret police to crush anyone who disagreed with them, while all that oil money enriched a tiny little elite, leaving almost everyone else behind.
This forced, top-down approach created a huge backlash. A lot of Iranians felt like their entire culture and their Islamic identity were just being erased. They even came up with a word for it, Westoxication. It captured this feeling that their country was being poisoned by foreign values.
And that feeling was cemented in 1953. When Iran's democratically elected prime minister tried to nationalize the oil industry to take it back for Iran, the CIA helped overthrow him. They put the Shah back on the throne as an absolute monarch. For so many Iranians, this was all the proof they needed that the Shah was just a puppet for the West.
All of this anger,
This resentment, this feeling of being controlled, it all finally boiled over in 1979. And that brings us to the climax of our story, the Islamic Revolution.
And at the center of it all was Ayatollah Khomeini. His ideology was, for the time, really radical. He argued that until the prophesied Messiah returned, it was the right and the duty of religious scholars to govern the country. Now, this, combined with his powerful anti-Western message, managed to unite this incredibly diverse coalition. We're talking everyone from leftist students to conservative merchants, all against the Shah.
After the revolution succeeded and the Shah fled, it was actually pretty unclear who was going to end up in charge. But the storming of the U.S. Embassy changed everything. By supporting the students who took the hostages, Khomeini was able to outmaneuver all the secular and democratic factions, consolidating all the power for his fundamentalist allies.
And this revolution created the very unique system of government that Iran has today. So yeah, they have elections for a president and a parliament, but the real power, it lies with these unelected groups. You have the Guardian Council, which gets to approve or reject all candidates. And then, above everyone, you have the supreme leader, who gets the final say on, well, everything.
So what's been the legacy of this revolution 40-plus years on? Let's take a look at life in Iran today and the massive challenges the country is facing.
The changes after the revolution were dramatic. Suddenly, the hijab was mandatory for all women. Morality police were on the streets, and speaking out against the government could be treated as a crime against God. This led to a huge brain drain, an exodus of the educated middle class, and it's fueled this deep, widespread frustration, especially among young people who've never known any other system.
And in 2022, all that history of grievances just erupted. The death of a young woman, Mahsa Amini, in police custody sparked the largest protest the country had seen in years. The demonstrators weren't just asking for reforms, they were challenging the very legitimacy of the Islamic Republic. It was a powerful reminder of how this long history continues to shape Iran's incredibly turbulent present.
Which leaves us with this final critical question. Iran's long journey, from the tolerant empire of Cyrus the Great to the theocracy of today, is really a story about the tangled relationship between power, faith, and national identity. Whether the country can ever find a path that honors its deep religious faith while also meeting its people's undeniable desire for freedom, well, that remains one of the most compelling and important questions of our time.